Hi everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Revitalize, Reconnect Meets, where I get the opportunity to meet a business entrepreneur and also a key influencer from the UK business community. Today I've got the great pleasure to be with a connection that I've got to know over the last few years, and especially prior to lockdown. This lady has had previous roles with Director of Clearwater Brooks, a senior HR business partner with Compact Computers, also an HR manager at Macro, and an HR manager to BHS across the whole of the UK. She's been running her own business or been in business for over 20 years now. 18 years of that was with Clearwater Brooks, a previous company, and also presently 2 years with M55 People. Can you please welcome with me today the one but the only Miss Lesley Malcolm from M55 People. Lesley, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, Lee. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, superb. Well, thanks for meeting up with us. And it's a great opportunity for me to learn a bit more about your background and history. We've talked about it briefly today, but it's quite an interesting journey that you've had so far. Lesley, would you mind sharing with everybody who's watching and also listening today on the channels a little bit of an overview of M55 People and what the unique selling points are from yourself?
M55 People, I basically created M55 People from Clearwater Brooks, if you like, in the respect of most of the work that I was doing latterly within Clearwater Brooks was around well-being. You know, my background is obviously HR, and well-being in HR obviously, fits together. But it became apparent to me that's where there was a great need in terms of organisational and personal well-being, but also it was something I loved. I mean, this is kind of, if you like, my last swan song in the respect of I'm doing what I love now. I'm doing what I want now, and that was what brought me round to M55 People. So it's all about organisational and individual well-being. I'm not a clinician. So, I'm not going in, and having said that, I did become a CBT practitioner over the pandemic. I took my qualification, but more for the psychology of it. But certainly from the perspective of what organisational well-being is, the science proves that if you have a mentally healthy workplace, and what I mean by that is a workplace that people can talk about mental health, that it's okay to not be okay occasionally, and they're supported, then actually it's 21% more productive. Now, obviously, it's more than mental health. It's general well-being, it's social well-being, it's economic well-being, it's physical, it's mental well-being. But where people can talk about well-being generally, the organisation is 21% more productive. And that to me was a no-brainer. So not only were you helping people, you were helping organisations. And ultimately that's the end that I'm trying to get to, is the organisations become more well-being savvy, and as a result become more profitable, have more engagement, and we just have better business. And that's where it all comes. And as a result, people themselves feel better.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. You also mentioned in that little overview, and something I want to touch on as well, that you are the chairperson to the CIPD for the West of Scotland. How long have you been in that role for, Lesley?
Probably just over a year. I was vice chair prior to that. Obviously the CIPD, Chartered Institute of Personnel Development, is the kind of governing body of the HR community, or the people profession. And I'd always been involved. And for me, this was very much about giving back, about supporting students and supporting younger people coming through the profession, and trying to help. Plus I like organising things, so that helped. But no, I basically took on the vice chair to be more involved in the HR community, and then as luck would have it, I became chair, and I thoroughly enjoy it, because not only does it heighten my profile within the West of Scotland, at the same time I'm doing something and I enjoy, and I know that I'm giving back, and I know that I'm supporting and helping people, and for me that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, I think it's great where you're doing that, and also you're giving a helping hand to the ones. I mean, I've spoken to a few when I did a presentation for you and the CIPD members, the early part of March it was, but you've also been that organisation, that association is giving a helping hand to many who are just starting off in the field. And having that collaborative sort of support and feel absolutely superb work. I want to talk a little bit about achievements as well next, and thank you for giving the overview, because it really gives people a sort of an idea where you've came from and the background you've got. But in the achievements you've had, Lesley, we've talked about a few prior to today's sort of ReConnect meets, but I noticed on there that you were the first HR manager in British Home Stores to take on the store manager role and also the HR manager role. But also the other part of it was that you trained over 500 managers and employees at the RBS on mental health awareness. And I want to say congratulations on that. And that's a big achievement to do. But would you like to share any more achievements or successes that you've had in those 20 years to add to that?
Well, the RBS thing is actually quite recently. In fact, it's probably nearer 1,000. I just couldn't, I sat and was trying to work it out. But basically, I was doing mental health awareness as part of the whole RBS culture change. You know, they were doing a lot of leadership. I mean, let's be honest, a few years ago, they didn't have the problems to seek. And they were doing a lot of work on leadership, but also the whole thing on well-being. And, you know, I was very much part of that whole thing in terms of helping them create that mentally healthy workplace. So, and that was through LifeWorks, who were their employee assistance program. And that basically went on for about 2 years. So, I mean, they were definitely my main client at that time. But in terms of other achievements, I mean, certainly latterly with Clearwater Brooks, I was involved with Glasgow Airport. I worked with Glasgow Airport in terms of customer service training. And again, why it kind of resonates with what I do now is very psychology based. It was very behavior based. And in terms of the training that we did in the airport, and particularly, you know, it was the whole airport, but we were focusing initially on security staff, because that is probably one of the main touch points that a passenger has within an airport. And we changed from 7 complaints to every 1 compliment, from 6 to 6 compliments to every 1 complaint. In terms of, so it was a huge turnaround, and it was all about behaviour and the impact that your behaviour can have on somebody else, and equally if you react to other people, then how that can spiral out of control, and you know, and we have those issues, and that is very much where I take a lot of the well-being stuff, in terms of being very aware of your own thoughts, and because thoughts, you know, create feelings, which create action or inaction. And you know, that for me is the whole thing around your own well-being, that you can manage your own thought process. You know, you can intervene and say that's not helpful, and as a result influence your own well-being. So there was that correlation. But yeah, I mean, we won. Well, I became a finalist in the HR Network Awards because of this as the best training program, and we won a couple of chamber awards for best training program. So it was, you know, it was a big event. But as I said, although it's customer service, it certainly was about organisational well-being.
Yeah,
in that respect.
I think it's also, you hit on the right one. Congratulations on those. I think it's also, when you get to that stage, many people forget about is the internal thoughts that affect your actions that you're having.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, you can speak 1,000 words just by your mannerisms and the way you're going on half the time.
Yeah.
On that day, and you know, you can feel the energy or non-energy when you had one of those days in place. So I think that's extremely important. I came from a real big sort of travel background and saw that in place. So congratulations on doing that, especially that achievement with so many people. And
that was the whole CBT thing for me, was the why I eventually did during the pandemic was the a CBT qualification, not to become a practitioner, but again to get more insight into the psychology behind it, and that's where it's all based for me.
Superb. With everything that's gone on with the achievements, and looking at the many people that we've spoken to recently who are just starting off in their business now, there's so many people over the last sort of 10 weeks who have came out of a career, then starting their own business. What golden tip or advice would you give to somebody who's just starting off in their first steps? A tip, advice, golden nugget of information of how they can get their right HR in place, or their sort of mental sort of thought process in place for their new business. What would you share with somebody today?
In terms of, I mean, if you're a one-man band, then it's not quite as much. But if you've got a few employees, then yes, I do think that you need to make sure that you look after them. And that doesn't just mean in terms of how you talk to them and how you manage them and how you work with them. It's about having the right processes in place. And for me, you know, when I talk particularly to smaller businesses, having, you know, the proper contract in place, having processes and procedures in place. Yes, it might seem like a headache and, you know, what do I need it for? But basically, you're giving that person a signal. I care about you. I care about you enough to make sure that you're safeguarded and that I respect you enough to make sure that everything is in place for you and that you can feel secure in your role and that you know how to manage your role, because, you know, I've told you what it is I expect. So you've got, you know, clear criteria in terms of what it is you do and how you do it. And again, it's not terribly hard for a small business. You know, you can go onto the CIPD website and there's a whole host of information. As a CIPD member, we have, you know, access to employment lawyers, contracts, all sorts of things. So, you know, and there's loads of independent HR people out there. And the cost of that for me in terms of the security of your business is negligible. You know, it's something that I really believe that, you know, you should put in place, particularly if you have one or more employees. But in terms of, you know, from a psychology thing, I think it's all about positivity. You know, now to be positive, and I don't mean Pollyanna positive, I mean positive and I mean realistically positive, but it's about, again, putting these things in place, making plans so that you get that sense of, right, I know what I'm doing, which gives you that positivity. But equally on the journey, and let's be honest, in all our journeys, it's an up and a down and an up and a down. There's never a straight road. And going in with that knowledge that it is never a straight road, there will be challenges, there will be obstacles. But if I'm positive and I do keep going, I'll get there in the end. You know, and it's about not giving up. I think that's it, you know, those challenges. And for me, that just comes down to mindset. Mindset is ultimately everything. But equally, with that mindset, it's about action, actually taking action.
I think I agree with you, and thanks for sharing that. I think when you get the positivity in place, but also something you tapped into ever so slightly was communication. Was having people around you can ask the question to, because you're going to get a stage in that business that's going to go like this. Then you're going to take that a very steep sort of shoot upwards as well. But there's going to be so many people around you that if you don't speak up and ask the question, it'll never get rectified or fixed properly that you want to keep going. And that's what keeps you moving forward. It's the people you have around you to keep that positivity, that energy that pushes you forward. So thank you for sharing that.
And I think that's where somewhere like Revitalise is helpful, because you've got almost this community of people that you can talk to, and you probably know that either somebody's an expert or somebody's had experience in one of the problems that, you know, you're possibly going to come against. So again, for somebody that is starting out, it is find yourself your tribe almost. And, you know, once you've found your tribe, you'll feel more relaxed, and you'll know that you can go to people and you'll get that support, and you will make mistakes, and that's okay. That's part of the process.
Yeah, very true indeed. I like the way that I think about it as like a gym analogy all the time. You've got to put work in to get the effort in to make it come back to the results. The results will happen with the work and effort and mindset you put into place. It will happen, but you've got to keep pushing forward on that journey. Thanks very much for that. Now, with everything that's gone on over the last sort of 10 weeks, we've seen what's been happening. Many people have had that lovely word called pivot, or switching their business. With everything that you've done with your business and being involved in the last 20 years, you know, we talked about Clearwater Brooks there before. How have you diversified your business in the last 10 weeks? What have you put into place, Lesley, that sort of changed the direction, but kept the same course, if you know what I mean?
I think becoming virtual, to be absolutely honest. I mean, I was quite fortunate in the respect that a little bit of my work that I did was around webinars. You know, I would be doing 1 hour webinars on all aspects of wellbeing, everything from, you know, leadership, managing change, to having a good night's sleep. You know, there was a whole span of that. But so I was familiar with technology. I was familiar with the whole sort of webinar concept, but equally, as part of, you know, building M55 people and increasing my toolkit, I became a mental health first aid trainer. now, which is very, very popular. And again, that was only back in October, and all of a sudden I've had to learn how to do that virtually, with 16 people. And okay, the technology is not the issue, but it's getting the communication, it's getting the engagement within what would be a 7-hour training program into essentially what needs to be maybe 2 90-minute sessions, and perhaps an assessment at the end, because you can't sit on Zoom for 7 hours. Zoom fatigue is real. So I've done it into 1.5 hours in the morning, 1.5 hours, 90 minutes in the afternoon, and then we have an assessment. So we've kind of created something a little bit different in that respect. And the same with some of the other things I've been doing. I mean, I was working with Network Rail, for example, on for a psychology business, and basically it was around staying healthy and change. Now, it was about organisational change that they were going through, but the reality is it crossed over. Literally the first day I went down and delivered to Network Rail was the day before lockdown. I went to Milton Keynes and came back the same day, and then literally had to change it overnight into a virtual session. And again, it's that whole thing of understanding that you can't just take what you had and put it into, and do it virtually. You have to look at it, change it, and understand how much people can actually take virtually. So we did that, and it was fabulous. It got really, really good results and really good feedback. And it was quite interesting in the respect of you automatically, in terms of a change, you automatically had this huge global change to be able to relate back to, as opposed to constantly an organisational change. So it almost like, made it incredibly real in terms of the things people were going through, as opposed to hypothetical situations.
Yeah, I think you're looking at sort of it's adapting on the move.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and again, probably like yourself, my whole business now is virtual, and I don't see that it'll be anything but that probably until well into 2021. Mm-hmm.
No, I think you're completely correct on that one. And I think what it's done, we spoke about this prior to recording this as well, it's that it's made more people more proactive, more organized with their time. So it has time. Also having objectives, agendas, and everything set up for the meetings that you're having, the webinars that you're attending, the scheduling, the planning, the preparation that goes behind it. There's so much more. But I think you're right when you're saying, and really well done on how you've diversified your business, like switching it onto an online model, because you can have the same template, but you can just amend it in places, develop it to deliver. So you got the same message that you're delivering, but you've got a different platform to use it on there now as well.
You have to do it a different way, and I think sometimes that's the challenge. The one challenge I've had is kind of convincing clients that you can't just take what you had and deliver it face to face. Nobody's going to sit for 7 hours and listen to me. But at the same time, you can get, yes, you don't get the same engagement, you get a different type of engagement. And it's maximising on that different type of engagement. We're a little bit more casual. We see people's houses, and that's, again, that creates a different connection, but it's not a bad connection.
No, definitely, I agree with that. Unless they get my little box.
That's right.
What's next for Lesley Malcolm, and what's next for M55 people? What's the next door of opportunity that's going to open up for you?
Well, again, we were chatting just before we come on. I would ideally like to build an associate model. As I said, I do work as an associate for some very large firms, and that's got me in front of some incredible clients, the BBC, Network Rail, etc. But I want to build that myself. Now, I was starting that as a face-to-face model. That's probably not going to be the case for a while, but equally, it does give me plenty of time to plan for that face-to-face associate model. But yes, I need to try and generate more business and help other people in terms of creating that virtual model. Get associates in, get them trained up on my message, and get them to be delivering it. So I eventually want to be able to step back and, if you like, run the business as opposed to be in it all the time. And again, you tend to get caught up in that because even though I say to myself, I'm good at what I do, so you get a lot of good feedback. So that means that you start to do more of it. Whereas the reality is, to grow the business, I need to step back and I need to give it to other people and let them, you know, actually take it forward for me, because with the best will in the world, apparently there are people as good as me out there.
No, or maybe not. No, no, they are.
No, there are. There definitely are.
Everything you've done and everything you spoke about there, and especially what you got coming up next as well, how can everybody who's listening to us today and watching us today as well on the YouTube channel, how can they make contact with Lesley Malcolm and find out more about M55 people and about how you can support them on their journey?
Well, email Lesley at m55people.com, nice and simple. I'm on LinkedIn, Lesley Malcolm, and in fact this weekend I just created my M55 People Facebook page, and that was all done to the fact that like you were, I'm doing the push-up challenge, and I thought it needs to go onto M55 People's Facebook page. So I've certainly, I'm very contactable in that respect. And yeah, I mean, basically, if anybody wants to talk about basically making their business more productive, and helping their, because your people are your biggest asset. So helping your people become more engaged, helping your people want to work for your business, come and talk to me, because it is ultimately all about how you treat those people. You know, that's what it boils down to. How do those people feel about your business? How do those people feel about you? And how secure do they feel in the role that they're in?
100%. I think that's a great way. I would highly recommend many people to speak to you, Lesley, just to find out more about that, about getting people on your tribe, as you call it, understanding where you are and where you are in your journey. So thank you very much for that. Thank you once again, Lesley, for taking your time today to be part of the ReConnect Meet schedule. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, it's good fun, and it's nice to get a bit more of an insight and what you do, and also share to everybody else of how you've done that. So congratulations on all your successes, and you've got many more to come along. I think you've got so many more happening over the next many more years of running your business. Thank you to everybody for listening and watching today. Revitalize, Reconnect, Meet, and we look forward to welcoming you back to the next edition, where I get the opportunity to meet a business entrepreneur and a key influencer from across the UK community. You can find out more about Revitalize, Reconnect by subscribing to the channels on YouTube and also on Anchor. But thank you to Lesley, thank you to you. Keep safe, keep healthy, and we look forward to seeing you again at Revitalize, Reconnect, Meet. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.